you can talk of the EU in general, but you can talk of the EU, of the member states of the EU. And I think there were different and contrasting positions among EU member states. You have, of course, those states that were on the external borders of the EU, and countries that have had to bear the essential weight of the refugee flows, and this relates to the famous Dublin regulation. Some of these countries did not have the capacity to treat all the asylum seeking, or even to give temporary hosting and protection to refugees. Some of them even adopted quite harsh positions, quite hostile positions towards the idea of refugees in general. But then you had other countries that were more open to the flows of refugees, who respect to a great extent international refugee law, and who accommodated refugees. I think it's also important to say that even in countries that were in principle hostile or reserved on refugees, you also had among the population people who were very welcoming of refugees. So it's important, I think, to emphasize that you did not have one position. Europe is plural, is diverse, and in the countries that welcomed refugees, you had also people who were hostile to the idea of or xenophobic. And the countries that were officially reserved and hostile, you also had people who were welcoming. So I think all in all, you can say that now, after a year from the, let's say, after the urgent situation has come to an end, I think that things have, to me at least from my perspective, things have stabilized to some extent. Well, I think one remaining challenge is for Europe to get to terms with how it will deal with the question of refugees. And this, in fact, has to do with the internal arrangements within the European Union. In September 2015, you had the European Commission, the President of the European Commission, come up with a plan for relocation, and then you had some countries very reluctant to accept or even rejected the plan. Others were more welcoming. So this really is a challenge for the European Union. I think it has probably less to do with external actors than it is an internal an issue of European integration itself. I think that the Dublin regulation could be reconsidered in order to reduce the pressure on some of the countries. So one directive that is a little spoken about is a directive of the year, I think, 2001, to the travel directive. Refugees, migrants, even non-refugees and migrants cannot travel directly to European countries to seek asylum, for instance, which is right under international refugee law. They cannot do that because of this directive, which imposes on airlines to check visas and so on and so forth. And this results in smuggling and results in very high cost, in both financially and in terms of human lives, on those people who need international protection. So I think there are a few issues that will need to be taken into account, of course, in addition to trying to work politically on the end of the problems that are at the origin of refugee flows. I think the long term, there are structural causes for migration. Structural causes in the European Union, which are known. The low fertility rates, low population growth rates, low to negative when it comes to natural population growth rates, shrinking working age population, shrinking labor forces. So we know and this. And of course, even demand for skills, because education systems cannot adapt very quickly to demand for skills. So we know what the structural causes are, but migration, is cannot really be taken care of or approached from one side only, because migration is from one country to another country and probably through a third country. So you have to take account also of the causes in countries of origin. And here you have the causes, question of employment, question of poverty, of course the expanding labor forces and working age population. All of these are causes and addressing them, dealing with them, should be objectives of policy. I think these will need to be addressed. They will not disappear. And you have some variables which, in fact, are there and fixed. There's geography. You cannot escape geography. Geography is there. I mean, you cannot just complain about geography, because, you complain about something that you can find solution for. But if something is a given, you do not complain, you try to deal with it. So I think this will probably require some intelligent and effective dealing with an effective approach in order to realize the objectives of both sides. You cannot realize the objectives of one side alone. You have to realize the objectives of both sides if policy is to be effective. I think for the future as well, looking forward, you cannot neglect the concern with identity questions. It's not that it's justified, but it is used by far right-wing populist movements to, in fact, undermine the European social and political model. So you have to address it. You cannot ignore it, because it has political weight. Whether you or I agree that it really is objectively of importance or not, really is little relevant. It is being raised. So I think this has to be addressed. And it has to be addressed also jointly, with countries of origin and countries of destination. And you have to address it, and you have to speak about what are the problems with integration of migrant and population of migrant origins. But in addition to that, you also have to bring out and to emphasize that there are multiple examples of successful integration. Population of migrant origin have been successfully integrated. You have them in all walks of life in Europe. Of course, you have some exceptions. Why? You have to address that You have to address that. Maybe migrants, some of them, a little percentage don't want to integrate, cannot integrate. Maybe there are faults also with integration policy. Maybe there are issues of discrimination. Maybe so you have to really address this frontwise and not avoid it.